between her legs. Wincing, she repeated the process again and again, until at last the soreness turned to numbness. Lying on her side on her small bed, the wet cloth held in place, Lily finally gave way to her misery. Silent tears ran down her cheeks as she thought about what had happened to her. She felt dirty, a dirtiness that no amount of scrubbing would erase. She had been abused against her will, her virginity stolen. A sob caught in her throat as she closed her eyes to the feeling of disgust that wrapped itself around her. The tears ran like a river as great heaving sobs racked her body. Lily knew she would never be the same again. She'd had no warning that this might have happened. There was nothing that told her what the master's son had on his mind, otherwise she would have ensured she stayed out of his way. He'd given her no cause to believe that he was anything other than a spoilt young man. She knew she could say nothing about the debacle to anyone. Who would believe her? She was just the maid, after all. Her thoughts swirled, and it suddenly occurred to her, if he'd done this once, he might try to do it again. Her resolve began to stiffen. There was no way on God's green earth that man would abuse her again. Then another thought struck. What if he had made her pregnant? Lily shuddered. She knew the old wives' tale about not being able to get pregnant the first time, and she dismissed it as nonsense. If the act had been performed, then it was always possible a pregnancy could occur. What would she do if that turned out to be the case? She had very little money, not near enough to seek help. Besides, women had died trying to get rid of unwanted pregnancies. Watching the moon cast its glow on scudding clouds through her tiny window, Lily knew if she found herself to be with child, she would be dismissed from her work. Then what? With no job, no money, and an unwanted child growing in her belly, where would she go? How would she live? Would she end up in the dreaded workhouse? Please, God, not that, she whispered into the empty room. Then, realizing she was meeting trouble round the corner, she settled her mind to priorities. The first of which was to stay as far away from the master's son as she possibly could. Sebastian Ryder had laughed as he'd left the maid on the dining room floor. He had enjoyed knowing he had been her first. He didn't care that he had spoiled her for any other man, or that she would probably never be in a position to marry now and have a family of her own. He'd laughed again, thinking it may be that she might in fact have a child. His child. His father would dismiss her if that proved the case, but it would be months before it would be known for sure. He could take his pleasure many times with her during that time. Riding his horse across the heath to the town to meet his friends, Seb felt the joy of being young, healthy, and most of all, rich. At least his father was rich, but Seb wanted for nothing. His mother doted on him and spoiled him, which allowed him to do exactly as he pleased. As he rode over the scrubland, he thought about his parents. His mother was a soft touch, and he could twist her around his little finger. His father was either at work as a buyer and seller of anything he could get his hands on, or he was at his gentleman's club in the town. Their house was on the outskirts of Wednesbury, set in the centre of the Black Country. The town itself was dirty and drab. The coal dust from the collieries coated every building, which even the rain couldn't remove. Only the surface dust could be washed off, which would run down the cobbled streets like a black stream. Bringing his horse to a walk in order to enjoy the sunshine, Seb thought again of his lifestyle. Free to come and go as he pleased, he often sought out the company of his friends in one or other of the taverns in town. There they would drink themselves senseless, and he would climb onto the back of his trusty steed. The horse would find its own way home, and so deliver him safely to sleep off his stupor more often than not in the stables. Life was sweet, and now he could take his physical pleasure at home, yet again, rather than having to go to some bawdy house and pay for it. He thought again about Lily Rae, and how she had